Just a couple bad weather fans representing New York, talking all things sports. Man, what could go wrong? We got Alex, who's a fan of the Knicks, and Mike of the Nets. The yin-yang of the tri-state, place your bets on the Yankees, Giants, Mets, or Jets. Yeah, you should listen if they're sparking your interest. If you made a vow to your team, don't break it. Bad weather fans is the relation.
That's right, in Bad Weather Fans, episode number 106. Mike Biseglia, Alex Danezowitz, and we're doing this on a Saturday morning after the New York Knicks suffer a heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, disastrous loss versus the Phoenix Suns, 115-114. The Brooklyn Nets, they'll play again on Sunday in Boston with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant paired as the Nets fall back to 500 and are fighting for their play-in lives. But I got to be honest, Alex, after all the shit talking from Knicks fans about the Nets, not that it really matters because the Knicks are irrelevant anyway in the scheme of the NBA. It was beautiful. It was the Nets are definitely not irrelevant. It was beautiful. You might say they're not playing well, but they are not irrelevant. It was beautiful to see that unbelievable Suns comeback win. And I know this is going to piss a lot of Knicks fans off hearing this first thing on their Saturday morning. I don't give a shit. Alex, how are you?
I'm all right. That was a rough game. I mean, I passed out a little bit in the beginning, woke up for the end of the game, and it was tough, a tough ending. You know, when you're up, 109, 104, and quickly hits that three, you're like, oh, okay, we might get this one. No Booker, no Paul. Paul's been out, and Booker is out with the protocols, and you're thinking the Suns are still the best team in the NBA. So even without their two best players, they can still be a legitimate squad. I mean, they have guys that have big shots, like Crowder's been around the block. That's your boy, I'm sure. Guys, everybody hates Jay Crowder.
I mean, yeah, he's one of those guys that I don't care what team you root for. Jay Crowder has annoyed you at some point. He's like PJ Tucker kind of vibes, where he's just always on winning teams.
Yeah, he's the James Posey of this era or something. He's like one of those guys. And so he hits a big three. Randall's ejected in the third quarter. That was we can talk about that in a minute, but that terrible call on the review with Crowder, I don't know how quickly fouled him. I mean, he missed one, made the second, and then it's just there was weird rotations by Thibs, of course, with Reddish comes out for Fournier, and then Fournier misses 2 threes and gives it the big defensive play, and it's just like, why do you keep going back to these guys? And it's just once Burks missed that free throw, you just knew they were going to lose. You just knew it. You know what I mean? You knew they were either going to at least tie, but it was just like, oh shit, like a collective oh shit from everybody. And of course, Burks is one of the few good free throw shooters on the team. And of course, he misses the second.
Yeah.
One, so,
and then the crazy play, Cameron Johnson with 38 points off the bench, a career high for him. And he looked fantastic. You think of the Suns, just the depth that they have and all the young guys that they have. And you see why they're the best team in the NBA. It was funny because I was thinking about this. The last time the Knicks won was against the Golden State Warriors in Golden State. And I was thinking, like, okay, wouldn't it be ironic that the Knicks are having just an epically poor last month where they don't win? I mean, they just don't win. But that their only 2 wins would come about against the best 2 teams in the league on the road. Did not. I mean, a little different with the Suns injuries, but I just thought still very difficult place to play. Just thought that would be funny. And for the Knicks, there's no easy spot in the schedule now. Is they've got the Clippers, they're on the road. There's the Kings there, the Grizzlies, then the Nets, and I'm missing another team I think that they have. But the Knicks road ahead is tough.
Kings,
and
playing the Kings,
it's going to be an interesting couple of days. And it was, man, I got to say, because of how bad the Nets have been lately and all the stuff that's been going on with them and the circus that has been the Brooklyn Nets over the last couple of weeks as they try to gear up for this playoff run. Knicks fans definitely went after me on Twitter and had fun with it. I got to be honest. I took pure joy out of watching the Knicks just lose in epic fashion like that. Like I actually got joy thinking about all the people that reached out to me and were like, oh, the Nets this, oh, the Nets that. And I saw that Suns shot go in and I got joy. I mean, there were people reaching out on Twitter being like, oh, the Nets are shit and I don't care. And then I started thinking like, people this idea. Mark Stein put this out about the teams that have had like disastrous seasons, and Knicks fans saying that they're not one of them. And I remembered, and I was like, "You guys are full of shit."
100% one of them.
When the season started, we had people come on this podcast and say second round or third round of the playoffs.
50 wins.
And you're telling me now that you're about to be a 30-win team, that's not a disaster? I'm sorry. And that doesn't mean that the Nets season isn't. It doesn't unquantify the shit that's happened with the Nets. But
two things can be the same. Yeah.
But just because the Knicks did not have
yeah.
the same expectations that the Nets did, and the Nets story is still unwritten, as crazy as that is, the Knicks is done. The Knicks story is written.
Yeah.
The Nets story is still unwritten. To come on and be like, well, it's different. The expectations. People were saying that they were a team that could go to the East Finals. I don't think they could get. They don't have it. Like this is everybody would say. Well, they don't have as much talent as a team like the Nets or the Bucks, but they could push a team and they can make it. And now to be this bad and say it's not a disaster, it is.
No, it's 100% a disaster. And, I was one of those people. I never said they would win 50. I thought around 46 wins. You know what I mean? Like I was like, all right, you know what? Like they can do well. They can be, they can be in it. You know what I mean? The top 6 team. Yeah. I think that's pretty, realistic. I think, at
the time it was. I mean, considering the Knicks were a 4 seed and they made these additions that people thought were good in the long run. Fournier's been okay now, but
Fournier's okay. Yeah, he's been what he's going to be. Yeah, they shouldn't rely on him as much as they do.
He's kind of settled back to the mean of where he'll be, but he's not an impactful player that's going to elevate your squad. He's more just, like if you're the Suns and you need a guy that's going to give you 10 minutes in a championship run. At this point, right?
For sure. I mean, you got your wish though, as a Knicks fan. Randall's out in the third quarter. Thibs can't go back to him. He gets ejected. It was a questionable ejection, but I think he was ejected because the ref was trying to break up the fight, and Randall pushed the ref out of the way, sort of, and went after Cam. I mean, it was kind of. I think that's why you can't touch an official. You just can't do that, and I believe that's why he was tossed. It wasn't because of the push on Cam, because there's pushes like that in the NBA all the time. I mean, this isn't like the 90s where you can punch a guy in the face and then shoot a free throw. This is like, you can push a guy in the NBA and not get tossed. You might get a technical, but it's because he made contact with the official. There's no doubt about it. And Richard Jefferson, our boy, even was saying, I don't know how he was tossed for that. But
did you hear his call when it was going on?
I did not. No, I didn't hear the whole thing. No,
so it was going on.
I was watching MSG.
They start pushing and shoving, and he goes, Jerry.
I went to a Jerry Springer show actually a long time ago.
I think you told me that one time in Chicago.
There's a picture of me. Yeah, there's a picture of me clapping on TV. A girl I knew worked at Jerry Springer, and she got us, me and my boys, tickets to go. I mean, it's free, but she got us in a good spot and got us on TV and stuff.
You like it?
Yeah, it was fun. There's actually still a video of me on there on YouTube. If you type in Jerry Springer break, and you can find it. It's from like 10, 12 years ago. You see me in it. I'm like clapping. Like, yeah.
Was it highly produced? It was like highly produced? Like, is there a lot of starts and stops to get to the final product?
No, it's all acting. It wasn't like real people at all. It was all.
But actors. I mean, they just go and then
they just go. And then they just go. They wing it, and it's just a bunch of low level actors that are just. They're not real people for sure. You can tell
believe that.
Yeah, no, they not on a Springer break episode. That's for sure. At least that maybe on a regular episode, it might be real people, but the Springer break is just all about a girl getting water poured on her shirt, and like, it was weird. Not weird. It was fun. I mean, at the time, but whatever.
Right.
But anyway, back to the Knicks. If you look at it, the Knicks were 22-21 on January 15th, and they beat the Hawks, and we're all excited again. Obviously we're excited at 5-1, but we're 22-21. And you beat the Hawks. It's mid-January. You're like, all right. And I'm like seeing like, I told you they'd be okay. Like here we go. And now they're 25-38 on March 5th. Like, how is Thibs still the coach, dude? How is he the coach though? What they always say, like, oh, he'll survive the season as long as the bottom doesn't fall out. The bottom has fallen out. What is the bottom falling out? If this is not the bottom falling out, I don't know what is, Mike. What is the bottom falling out?
Well, hopefully there's more bottom to fall. I mean, we'll keep seeing. I've gotten to the point too, and I might regret saying this. I never say stuff like this. I shouldn't say it.
Say it. You already said it. Now you have to say it. Yeah. Now you have to
I'm looking at the Nets schedule because I'm seriously concerned with wins, and I see the Knicks and I'm happy. Not because I think they can beat them, but I'm like, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, it's not the Grizzlies on the road, right? I'm like, it's not playing the Miami Heat. And I trust me, by no means of a stretch of imagination am I going to go into net Knicks and being cocky. I'm just like, at least there's the way this Nets team's playing now, it's a team on the schedule. It's like the Orlando Magic's there too. At least I'm like, okay, the Nets are going to go into this with a chance because there's no Kyrie Irving. Yeah. We don't know when Ben Simmons is coming back. Durant is now back for the Nets, but they don't have their full squad. And I'm looking at these standings or the schedule going, at least the Knicks are a team where they're going to be
to worry about. Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that with Durant back, they're going to be fighting in a lot more games, but it's at least it's a team that sucks.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about. They're not coming. You have to worry about the top. There's what is there? There's a 13th team. That's the Wizards, right? They're kind of close. So you got. I don't know what did they win last night? I didn't even see.
They lost to the Hawks. They lost to the Hawks. So the Nets, Hawks, and Hornets are kind of now all muddled together for 8, 9, and 10. Yeah. The Raptors are a couple games up, but they actually haven't been playing great since the Nets game. So things aren't.
So you got some room now from the Wizards,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean.
Oh wait, hold on. Is this the right standings? It looks like 9, 8.
You seen the Devils in there? You got the wrong league.
So you got Raptors 7, 34 and 29, Nets 32 and 32, Hawks 31 and 32, Hornets 31 and 33, and Wizards 28 and 34, and then the Knicks 25 and 30.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
The 7 through 12. Yeah,
the Raptors a little bit ahead, and then the Nets, Hawks, and Hornets kind of all.
They're all mushed together.
I mean, there's still a lot of time. I mean, there's still for the Nets 18 games left, so a lot can be maneuvered with that. I don't think the Nets, and I said this before, I don't imagine them getting to the 6th seed. I mean, at this point, if you're a Net fan, I don't think I think you're just, if you're a Nets fan, you're not even. I don't want to be 9 or 10 for obvious, or 11. 11, you're out. 9 or 10, 2 games to win would be extremely stressful.
You want to have the one game.
You want to be the 7 or 8 seed, and I think for the Nets now, it's really not even about more of the standings. It's just about starting to win games, feeling good, and getting some momentum heading towards the playoffs. Because if it just started now and you're thrown in there versus the Bulls, I mean, they're gonna get their ass kicked. Like they cannot beat a team like that right now with the way the roster is constructed. But if Kyrie comes back full time, Ben Simmons comes back and he's integrated into this team, and you have, I'm not saying before we were like, oh, will we get this many games? Let's just get 2 weeks of it. And then at least you feel some sort of consistency going into the playoffs. But if the playoffs were to start and they're the 9 seed and they have to go face the Hawks, they got to beat the Hawks, and then they got to go beat, the Raptors or whatever, and they've not played one single second together, I mean, it's going to be a tough sell.
Yeah.
I don't know honestly, how they can do it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And honestly, you gotta watch it. I'm not going to tell you how to watch the NBA, but you want to be that 7-8, like you were saying. You want to be able to win 1. You don't want to have to win 2. You know what I'm saying? You can Kevin Durant can get you 1, on it by himself. He'll get you 1, even if the other guys aren't playing. So I don't know how you guys were rooting for the Knicks to beat the Sixers in that game on Wednesday and or both games. I don't know how you were doing that, because if the Knicks come and creep into that play-in tournament, that's worth more than, the Sixers, your James Harden, jealousy or anger, not jealousy.
I wouldn't call it. Well, first of all, I was one of the fans rooting for the Sixers to win that game.
Smart. Yeah.
But I'm also a little delusional. Like, the Knicks are terrible. And even if they did win that game, they're not stringing wins together. And to think that they could erupt past all those teams is probably irrational. That's how my brain went. But that's why I think Net fans that don't hate the Knicks as much as me or think as highly of them probably are rational. No, this is a bad basketball team that's not stringing together wins, that's going to eclipse all of them. And to say that I wouldn't call it James Harden jealousy.
I corrected myself. Not jealousy.
I think it's just James Harden pissed off. I mean, the guy flipped and left, and now was with the Sixers. It feels like if the Nets were to make the playoffs, and I knock on wood, it happens. Oh my God,
it's destiny. Yeah.
It's destiny. Look where the standings are. Look where things are happening. It feels like it's destiny.
It's coming. Yeah.
It does feel like it feels like, I mean, the Sixers right now, I think, are 2.5 back of the Bulls for the Heat of the 1 seed. Miami without Jimmy Butler did beat the Nets. It was just a heart-wrenching loss. I was at Barclays Center. I saw it for Kevin Durant's return. Brutal loss. But it does feel like it might be destiny where these two teams are paired and meet up with each other in the playoffs.
Well, who would you rather lose to? Harden, Millsap, and Jordan, LeVert and Allen, or Dinwiddie in the finals?
You don't
want to lose to anybody, of course.
I don't want to lose to anybody.
I think Harden would be the worst. Yeah.
I think if there was at that point, I would say just bring on the Sixers, because I do think this is where I would say if teams win championships, they're going to have to go through a lot of bullshit, right? Like, look at the Milwaukee Bucks last season when they did win the championship. They had to get, like, for them, getting through the Nets was that momentous win to get them to become
Felt
a
like
champion.
they can do anything now. Yeah.
If the Nets, let's say, aren't playing great, they make it to the playoffs, and here comes the big bad Sixers with Harden and Embiid that's paired and playing well, and the Nets got through that, they could beat the fuck out of anybody. At that, like how your mind shifts right now. You're going, the Nets can't beat anybody. If the Nets get in the playoffs and beat the Sixers in a 7-game series, that's their regular season where they grew up and became a team, and then they could go on to beat anybody in a playoff series, because at that point, that means Simmons is clicking, Kyrie's clicking, Durant's clicking, and now you're going, we just beat the Sixers. We took care of them. This team that added Harden is playing great. We can now go ahead in the second round and take care of the Cavs. We can now go in the second round and beat the Celtics. Like
the Heat, though, the Heat. I mean,
I'm just saying, if they go in, if you beat the Sixers
depends on the
in
bracket.
first
It all
round,
depends on the bracket, also. You know,
but momentum wise, if you're a Net fan, if you're the Nets and you just beat the Sixers in a best out of 7 series, why don't you believe you can beat anybody?
Right. Embiid is the best. He's the MVP. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Embiid is just out of control play. Like, he's so good.
Yeah.
And they have a deep team, man. With Tobias Harris is not even like he's falling out of the rotation a little bit because Maxey is playing so great. I mean, they're not the same position, but still, it's just, how many ball handlers can you have on the floor? And they're really good. I mean, I also, I want to get to, the vaccine stuff as well, because it's Mayor Adams comes out and says, as of Monday, March 7th, everything's going to be open. You don't have to show your vaccination to go to a restaurant, to go to a game, a concert, anything, we're free and open just like before, no masks either. Right. Obviously it's at the owner's discretion of the restaurant or wherever, but how is Kyrie not playing now is beyond me, and I, me, I'm rooting for pain for the Nets fans and the Nets and everything, but fair is fair right now. How is he not playing? I don't understand.
Yeah. It feels like they're making an example of it, but I also, as things have layered, and as I've said this, and I'm hoping I'm correct, because if I'm wrong, I'm in trouble, or the Nets are in trouble. I'm not, but I had said before, and we had talked about this, and because you had said you were on the record being like, they'll never change this mandate of all the jobs
the way they were. I didn't think so. Yeah,
but I was like, well, just things are changing, give it time. Like, time changes things. And I said, then when Mayor Adams 3 weeks out was like, oh, things are looking a little better, in a couple weeks we might change things, I was like, okay, that's him. So he doesn't have this like huge rip the band-aid off moment where he's kind of easing the community back into this spot. And he did that. And then when we found out that there was like a 20 minutes of net fan joy where it was like, Kyrie's back. And then all these tweets started coming out. Well, not technically, because of this and that, and because of this and the workplace and all of this stuff. We don't have to get into details. It was like, oh my God, we're back here again. So I just hope that this is like stage 1 again, where then Adams has to not get, like, in a week or two, then something else changes with a little detail that allows him to get back in, and all these other playing factors with the league. That's where your hope is as the Nets fan, right? Because otherwise, I think I don't know how he's back, and you just have to hope, and hope that this is the strategy from them, because they're playing political games and can't do things a certain way because of the viewpoint that it has from other people and from the workplace of how people, were fired, that it's just a slow drip to get him back.
He's got to get those workers back in work before Kyrie. I think that's part of it. And I do believe the example thing. I think he's being made an example of on a smaller scale, of course, like Plaxico. Plaxico Burress shot himself in the leg in the nightclub, however many years ago, and he went to prison, for how long? A year and a half, or he was out of the game for 2 years, and if a regular rich celebrity or regular rich person does that, he's not going to prison for that long. They threw the book at him because they wanted to make an example out of it for public perception. Don't bring your guns to the nightclub. You're going to go to jail. If you have an unlicensed firearm in New York City, you're going to go to prison. Meanwhile, in Texas, you can walk around with your gun on your waist and walk in. It doesn't matter. And that's why it's kind of the weird law. So it's kind of comparison, the comparison works a little bit from the vaccine in different states, but so I think that there's a lot of that going on with the mayor here in New York. And I kind of get that perception. He's new. He's trying to make everybody happy, and you can't. Soon he's going to realize that you can't make everybody happy. But I don't think it's because he hates the Nets. I think it's more of just the example situation. It's not like,
No.
oh, the mayor's a Knicks fan. Some people are saying, oh, the mayor's get out of here. They don't care about a basketball player. They're worried about pissing off thousands of voters. You know what I mean? And people who don't give a shit about the NBA.
It's all politics. That's what it comes down to. And that's why it's just things are strategic. Nothing's just done in a certain way to do it. It's done because there's ways to be handled and making sure that it doesn't piss everybody off and making sure, of course, I believe that the mayor's doing what he believes is in the best interest for the people, but he also knows that he can't just do things without ramifications. It has to be strategic and calculated. And we'll find out if there's some sort of change that's coming for Kyrie. If not, the Nets don't have a chance. I mean, he's just that good. Like the Nets' last win was against the Milwaukee Bucks on the road. And he was brilliant. He scored 38 points. He did whatever he wanted, and he just helps change the game. So he has to be there for the Nets to have a chance, or else it doesn't matter. I am curious to ask you this because this is something you tweet a lot, and it does annoy a lot of Net fans. It annoys me, and I think it just needs to come down to like understanding what this definition is. You say RJ Barrett's a star. In your viewpoint, what is an NBA star?
When I'm saying RJ Barrett's a star,
because let me just interrupt real quick because it's Twitter and it's nuanced and you say that, but I think it'd be really interesting for our Net fan audience to, when you say he's a star, like is a star, what is a star? And I think that clarity would be really helpful.
A star is somebody who consistently scores. It's not a statistical thing. Someone who's consistently giving it to you, is your leader of the team, who shows the poise, who's scoring. There's no definition. I'm watching it because there's a lot of Nets fans who are not watching every Knicks game. There's a lot of Knicks fans who are not watching every Nets game. So we can't appreciate each other's players as well as the other person. But then there's the fan goggles thing, and people are like, oh, you're just a homer. So you can't really. So it's hard. It gets lost in translation. So that's a good question. But RJ Barrett is he's not Emmanuel Quickly. He's not Cam Thomas. He's not some random bottom of the first round player or second round pick that you're like, wow, he's having a good stretch. This guy was the third pick in the draft. He was the number one high school player, ranked higher than Zion coming into college. RJ Barrett has taken a step, and you could see it in his poise and his demeanor. He's dropping 40 something on the best team in the NBA, on one of the best teams in the NBA, the best team in the East, and he's really coming into his own. And you could see it if you're watching consistently that he's a star. Like it's happening right now. He's 21 years old. He's not 23. He's 21 years old, and he's taking that step that you wanted to see. He's not at the John Morant level yet. But that's different. That's a different tier, but he is coming up towards that, and he is growing towards that. And it's exciting as a Knicks fan to see that. You can just see the growth and potential coming out of him. He's making the right decisions. He started hitting his free throws over the last couple games since that Heat game where he missed 8 free throws, where he would have dropped 50 if he just hit a few. So there's no definition of this is a star. This is not Linsanity. You know what I'm saying? This is not Linsanity. The guy has a good 2 weeks. And, he's in his mid to late 20s. He's a backup NBA player. You know what I mean? That didn't get a chance. This is the third pick in the draft. And that's why you can see that the star level is there with him. Does that help?
Yeah, no, that does help a lot. See, I would define RJ Barrett as somebody that's becoming a star. I think to be a star is a different level there. And I will, because I know Net fans heard what you said, and there was one thing that stuck out to them, and I know what it is when you put Cam Thomas in the conversation. So I'll just use your rationale here a little bit, because I don't think I think RJ Barrett is a more well-rounded player who can defend. He's bigger, different. I think he has got a tremendous bigger upside than Cam. But I will say this, like for Cam Thomas, who's a rookie, who's 20, who's in his first year in the league, who's getting buckets and can score, use that same logic, and you think like he can become a guy that is a star in this league, because he has the ability to go out and score buckets and score points. Now, he was doing all that, like when the Nets sucked, and they were going through that terrible stretch when they had nobody. He was the guy, and you saw it. It was during the Knicks stretch. Yeah. And that's actually when they got a few guys back, but he was putting up between 20 and 30 points every night because they needed somebody to score. Doesn't mean that they were winning, but they needed somebody to score, and he had that ability. So just with that same thing, I think RJ Barrett's got a much bigger upside because of the well-roundedness of his game, rebound, defend. He can do those type of things, but I wouldn't then limit what Cam Thomas can be, because he's 20 years old and he can go out and score whenever he wants on the court at this age in his career, in this stage of his career. Doesn't mean that he can't be a star either.
Sure, but also RJ Barrett's in his third year, and he's finally showing that he can take the lead. He's been in a really, really terrible situations, and I know Cam Thomas was in a terrible situation just now. And that's not. I'm not taking it away from him. I just think there's Cam Thomas may be a star. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to make this a comparison thing.
Right,
I just think RJ Barrett has a different level. I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like he's a rookie. Like what's Cam Thomas going to be in his third year? So he'll be 22. Right. So now we're getting into like, okay, he's 21, he's 22. He's going to be 22 in his third year of doing this. What is he going to look like in his third year in the league in his ability to score? It might be really good. We don't know that yet. But I said I do agree with you in this idea that I think RJ Barrett's got a bigger upside because we've seen it, it's proven, and that makes a difference.
Defensively too, better. He can play defense.
Defensively, he can rebound. I think he's got more of that skill set that Cam will ever have. Doesn't mean he can't grow, but I would be careful to say like he's not just a guy like Cam Thomas. I think Cam Thomas can be a really good NBA player.
No, for sure. I'm not hating on Cam Thomas. Guy can play, and that's no doubt about it. And
Cam's killing the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean that was a crazy game, but
another Cam last night.
Yeah, and I don't know why Thibs with the rotations. I don't want to go back to that, but it's just with the Cam Reddish stuff. He's finally starting to play, and he's playing because he has to play him, and it's not because Thibs wanted to play him. It's because he has to play him because Grimes is hurt and he's got guys down, and we think that we think our conspiracy theory is correct with the mandate to play the younger players or you're fired. Because all of a sudden after the All-Star break, he's starting to play younger players. Like, where did that come from? But anyway, no, I mean, Cam Thomas is good, man. I like him. I don't want to make it a comparison thing, but you got Nets fans like our boy William on Twitter, who's always like, RJ Barrett is just the best player on a bad team, and that's why he's playing so well. So you get some of that hate on that side, which is unfair. This is not like Kendall Gill. You know what I'm saying? This is not like a guy who is playing well on a bad team who's older. You know what I mean? Like it's not. This is not somebody who's like, Langston Galloway. You know what I mean? This guy was the third pick in the draft. That's what makes it different, where it's like the potential is there and you're starting to see it. It's starting to click. He's starting to believe that he's the one. You know what I'm saying? You could just see it. It was like after that, when he was a rookie, he had that step back three. Knicks fans know what I'm talking about. He had that step back three against the Bulls. And it was the first play you're like, whoa, and everybody's like, oh, I remember I was watching and I was working out and I almost jumped off my elliptical, and it was just like, and it was they were out of it. It was 2019, they were garbage, but whatever year it was, his rookie year, and they were garbage, but he made that play, and you're just like, holy shit, where did that come from? You're like, okay, you know what I mean? You start to, you're like, all right, there's something there, you know what I'm saying? And RJ was a little down early in the season, but he's starting to get there. And I guess you can give Thibs credit for that. The development of RJ, some people want to take that away from him. It's okay to give him credit for something, like it's okay for him, some of the other things, I don't know, but RJ is really developing over the last 2 years. And maybe he would have with any coach, you don't know, but Thibs is a coach there. And, I don't know. I'm really excited about RJ.
Shout out to William for giving Alex shit on Twitter all the time.
Always.
It more.
Always.
Do it more. Do it more. And did I mention do it more? It also plays into this because, and my mind is trying to fish and search to how to kind of put this together, because like the Knicks fan always says how relevant the Knicks are to the league and how important they are. Yet at the same time, nobody cares about RJ Barrett nationally.
No, it's not that nobody cares. It's that he's not getting the respect that he deserves because
or
it's more
respect, whatever.
Let me finish.
John Morant plays in Memphis and people care. Like it's a bigger story. Like why? Like I'm trying to wrap my head around that. I'm done.
Okay. You want to? Okay. So no, because they have this anti-Knicks thing where it's like the LOL Knicks, the say Knicks for clicks. You want to just it brings more attention for people to laugh at the Knicks and say that they suck. It's been 20 years since they've been good, and this guy sucks, and that guy sucks, and we're one pick away from RJ Barrett. Like, okay, like, dude, this is not Steph Curry. You know what I'm saying? This is not Steph Curry, and we drafted Jordan Hill and passed on DeMar DeRozan. This is not that. You know what I'm saying? RJ Barrett looks like a player, and like maybe he won't be a superstar, but at the very least, it looks like we got an all-star level player here, and that's a piece. And that's a piece at 21 years old. That's our guy. You know what I'm saying? And just this is not. I don't know, man. This is what it is. It's where RJ Barrett can drop 46 on the best team in the East, and it's all about how they lost, et cetera, et cetera. And the Knicks are not winning, so they get no. They suck. forget about him. We're one pick away, and John Morant misses a dunk, and it's all over the internet. It's all over ESPN. It's all over these channels, and that's what it is because that's a disrespect there because it's just they don't want the Knicks to look relevant and to look good because then all of the comments and everything over the last 3 years were wrong. Like, look at all the people who were trashing the Knicks for Porzingis. Some of them were fired, like Max Kellerman. You know what I'm saying? They're not even in their positions anymore because look how stupid they look. The guy's on the Wizards, he can't even get on the floor. You know what I'm saying? And there's no apologies. There's no nothing. So you transition. You move to John Morant. You should have had John Morant and not RJ Barrett. You don't say, oh, you know what? The Knicks actually did a good job. And they say, oh, now it's all, oh, well, RJ Barrett and the Knicks, they don't win. Last year, they fucking won. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Why does last year not count? Oh, 20 years. It's been 20 years. Why does last year not count? Why does the 3 playoff years of Melo not count? Because it sounds more fancy to say 20 years. It's just silly Knicks talk, and that's why that Sam Mitchell clip blew up so much over that I posted the other day at Knicks Central on Twitter, where he's talking about on NBA TV of the Knicks need to start playing the young guys. If you don't have a good season and you're not in the playoffs, the best thing to do is then play the young guys. And if you find a piece like RJ Barrett, then you know what? It was a successful season. And that's NBA analysis right there. That's somebody who's paying attention, who's in tune. That's not somebody who's trying to be like, can you believe it? John Morant or Jalen Rose gets on ESPN saying, well, they should have lost more. The Knicks had the most losses they were the worst team.
That was stupid.
That was lottery. Wrong. It's a lottery.
Yeah, no, it's
but that's what I'm talking about. That's the inconsistencies. That's right there.
Well, it's funny how, and that's why I was curious.
I know I was rambling.
No. I was curious to hear your answer on it, and it's narratives are built nationally, and I see that now more than I ever did. Now with the Nets where they are, I guess I never saw like national narratives.
You're big time now. It's big time now.
It's just storylines are built and stories are created, and you're just reading this stuff, and it's like somebody that's in the day to day doesn't see it as much.
Yeah,
and it's just on the true story is, and this probably is happening too, and maybe not as much, but it's more like this is Jordan Bowie. Not that it's the same thing, same Bowie, or with the
it's not even close
with Williams, with Zion. And Morant, that's what's happening.
That's the play.
Yeah, that's the
thing.
play.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is not saying that,
I mean, the story's not written on Zion yet, though. But yes, that's the comparison.
Right, exactly. For example, right now, Jordan was the 3rd pick in that draft. Hakeem 2, right, and then Sam 1. Nobody.
No, Hakeem was 1, Sam was 2, and then
Sam
Jordan
was 2. Okay, but right. Okay, yes, exactly. Thank you for that. But just saying that was like that's the play right there. Like maybe it's the fact that this guy's the bust, right, of epic proportions, and then that John Morant's now turning into an all NBA guard. Yeah. That's where the shit should be put on. Is the Pelicans, the Knicks? They felt like, let's be honest, that was the only person to pick. Right? It was RJ. They had no choice. They had to go there. They made the play. He's developed. He's become a nice player. Doesn't mean like if the Knicks were 2, you know who the Knicks were taking? They weren't taking RJ Barrett. They were taking John Morant. He was the consensus number 2 pick. That's more of it. So it's like the shit should be more on the Pelicans than it should be on the Knicks. The Knicks are doing everything right. It just happenstance that all of a sudden the John Morant has turned into this like top level NBA player.
Yeah, no, and going into that draft, it was a 3-player draft. It was Zion, Morant, and Barrett. And yes, the Knicks didn't get the 1 or 2 pick, but we're like, oh my God, thank God, at least we got 3. There was nobody sitting there saying, oh, we should have taken Darius Garland with 3, like Kendrick Perkins, a ESPN guy, was saying recently. How did the Knicks pass up on Darius Garland for RJ Barrett? And Garland's a nice player, but it's hindsight is 2020 with those kinds of comments. Of course, the Knicks should have taken Donovan Mitchell instead of Frank Ntilikina. Of course, but there was nobody on draft night saying, how did you not take Donovan Mitchell? It was, how did you not take Dennis Smith Jr.? And they don't want to say that now. LeBron doesn't want to say that now. All these guys, it's just, that's why changing the narrative. It's a narrative changing.
That's why, Alex, I always say, like, when the Knicks should tank or not tank, and you go, well, is there a difference between 11 and 8? Like, is there a player you rather take that's, this or that? And I go, it's about who you draft well. Like, and I'll use this as an example from 2019. The 8th pick in the NBA draft was Jackson Hayes for the Hawks. The 11th pick was Cameron Johnson.
Right.
You know, like I don't know. I mean, at the time
You
when
bring
that
it all
draft
back together. Cam Johnson hitting the
Right.
3 last night to win.
and I'm saying
he doesn't look like a star either, though. I mean, he's okay. He just had a big game.
But he's also 20. He's also to his credit, he's
He's a
20,
baby.
whatever he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and let's be honest, like if he was getting more rotational minutes like he did last night when there was no Devin Booker, and I'm not saying he plays the same position, I get it, but you know how minutes work.
I know what you're
if
saying.
there's no Chris Paul, I'm not watching every Suns game, but if there's no Devin Booker, there's no Chris Paul all season, Cameron Johnson probably has more inflated numbers. And he's probably on a trajectory. So
he's 26 already. Wow.
Oh, it's 26. He's older.
Yeah.
He's just looking back at this draft. You just don't know.
still.
Like, it's just too early to tell, when some guys are busts, but you don't know the whole story yet. It's too early. Cam Reddish, 10th pick in that draft. You just
you don't know.
It doesn't mean just because you have the 8th pick or the 5th pick or the 2nd pick or the 7th pick, you don't know who's going to be the better NBA player when it's all said and done. And just like the Pelicans right now, Zion, the 1st pick, isn't playing basketball games. So yeah, I feel your frustration on that from a narrative side of it. Like, what did we do? He's not John Morant, but at the same time, like he's still a good, young, developing NBA player.
Right. And that's the thing. And that's why if the Knicks end up with like a 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th pick, I just trade the pick because RJ Barrett looks like a player and Mitchell Robinson, I want to bring him back. So then if you trade that top pick that you have, because they're not winning the lottery. Let's not be let's be ridiculous. Let's not be ridiculous here. Well, you never know, and you might get Ivy. That's great, but at the same time, I'm not gonna trade the pick until the lottery is done, obviously. But also this draft is not one of those drafts where you're like, we have LeBron James, we have Zion, we have Dwight Howard, we have there's no guy there that you're like, I mean, Ivy is the guy, but you're still not like. You weren't hearing about him until recently. You know what I mean? It wasn't like Zion where he's coming into college like, oh my God, you got to watch this guy. You know what I mean? John Morant that came in mid-year and you're like, holy crap, who is this guy? Getting triple doubles in the tourney. You know what I mean? You're like, well, holy crap. And RJ, of course, the number one high school player, with Zion, there's no guy like that. You know what I'm saying? And I know Ivy looks like a player, but still, and there's guys that I don't know at this point, but still, excuse me, but still, it's just you're more likely to get somebody like a Jackson Hayes or like Kevin Knox than you are to get a Donovan Mitchell or whoever or DeMar DeRozan. You're more likely to get a guy that's not as good. So trade the pick and Randall and whoever fill in the blank and get me some players in here. Get me some players in here that can complement RJ Barrett because before you know it, RJ Barrett's going to want to get paid. Before you know it, these guys are, he's got to have the talent around him to win, to play better, to be in an environment where he can grow and get to that next tier because he's not going to get there playing with a bunch of bums and playing with a bunch of guys who can't win and they're winning. They haven't won. They've won like 3 times in the last month. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, RJ Barrett's not going to be so okay with being on the Knicks. You know what I mean? And yeah, you shouldn't, maneuver your organization for one player. But at the same time, if you want this guy to be the star, to be a superstar that a number 3 pick in the draft and top high school recruit should be, put the talent around him to win. Don't give him Evan Fournier. Don't give him this Julius Randle who's turned into a pumpkin. Don't give me these guys. Give me players like a Damian Lillard. Get me Donovan Mitchell. Get me Zion. Get me somebody here. And I'm just naming names as those are the 3 on the top of my head. And I don't know if they have the assets to get him. But everything is on the table for these guys. At De'Aaron Fox, everything's on the table besides RJ and Mitch, in my opinion. And you might not get him without Mitch. So then you get rid of him too. RJ Barrett is untouchable. And you got to put real stars around this guy to let him develop and get to the next level? Or what are you doing here? Don't give me some 20-year-old player, 19-year-old, where you don't know if he's good for another 2 or 3 years. And then all you know, before you know it, you wasted RJ's early 20s. And now what are you doing as a franchise? Now we're starting over. Oh, let's tank again. Let's get somebody else. Give me a break, man. So tired.
This is where I'll disagree with you a little bit on it. And if you can get Donovan Mitchell, if you can get a guy like that, I'm not, of course, you go all in. If you go all in. But if you can get a superstar player, like a Donovan Mitchell, if Damian Lillard is now available and is healthy, you go it and you go do it. But outside of that, I don't think it's rational and a good idea to mortgage your whole future to move around to put somebody like to put Fox around RJ Barrett, because I mean, what's Fox done with Sacramento? He's put up numbers, but the team sucks. I mean, the team's not winning games. So to pair RJ Barrett and Fox as your future, I don't think it's good enough. But if you can go into the draft and keep securing guys and put around RJ Barrett, you say this, but like we talked about earlier, he's only 21 years of age, so he's still young. Yes, he's going to be coming up towards a contract situation, but I think then you have the potential to add in more players. The problem is the Knicks have not drafted well. Outside of RJ Barrett, they have not. And Obi Toppin
No,
right now is not looking like he's the guy. I mean,
he
he's
was
not
out
getting,
last night. He had a
he was
chance
out
to
last
play
night, but
there.
he's just
yeah.
you don't know what he is because he doesn't play enough.
And that's on the coach.
Right. But from
Yeah.
a draft perspective, we know what happened before RJ Barrett. We don't have to go through of that disaster. I think if you draft correctly and around these guys, you feel good. Like, for example, Cole Anthony was the 15th pick in the draft. And I'm not saying what is he going to be and how great is he, but if you take
he's a
guys
player.
and you
Yeah.
draft them and you develop them and then you sling this all together, that I would feel more comfortable about and feel better about as a potential to be a championship level team than I would just to make a trade. Outside of course, if you get Donovan
Yes.
Mitchell for everybody but RJ Barrett, now you have RJ Barrett and you have Donovan Mitchell. You're like, okay, we have an NBA team. We've got some stars here we're putting together. This can work. Outside of that, I wouldn't touch a trade. I really wouldn't. I would draft and build internally and do it the right way. I can't believe I'm saying this, as you and I have like shifted our mentalities
No, I mean,
earlier,
listen,
but I mean, if you're
Yeah.
getting that top tier guy, duh.
that's
But if
what, so
you're
we
not-
agree. Yeah, we agree.
But I
That's
don't.
what I'm saying
But I don't
too.
think.
Yeah,
But I don't
for
think
sure.
Fox is worth mortgaging your
Okay.
future to pair with him. It has to be. But why? You have to. I guess if
They need a point guard. They need
there you
somebody
go.
that's going to help. They have nothing. And I don't even know who's available in the offseason. But what are they going to pick up, like Ish Smith or something? And then what are we doing? You know what I mean?
Nets killer Ish Smith. Oh my god!
I always say
kills the
him
Nets.
because Clyde loves Ish Smith every time they play. He's like, oh, Ish shaking and baking. But anyway, no, it's just they need a point guard. That's why I think a Randall for Fox swap would be good because
That makes sense. Yeah,
but it's not going to happen now that they got Sabonis. But like the offseason, you can trade anybody in the offseason. Everybody always tells me players are not tradable. Russell Westbrook is not tradable. He's been traded twice. He's going to be traded a third time this offseason. You know what I mean?
Oof.
Everybody tells me all these players are not tradable, but in the offseason, teams do things crazy. And at the deadline, no one's taking on a big contract in the middle of the season. But when you're wiping your slate clean, the Knicks were able to trade Jose Calderon. Like, you know what I mean? You can trade players in the offseason. It's possible. So you can't tell me Fournier and Kemba are not tradable when they're probably going to get traded in the offseason. Fournier, they might keep just because as a bench player, as a rotational player, he can hit a three, whatever. But, Kemba can get dealt as an expiring. I think it's non-guaranteed, whatever. They might keep him just to trade him, whatever. I just feel like the Knicks do have the pieces like a Noel and these guys. I know the term that Knicks fans hate, the tradable contracts, but they do have them. If they match them together with Randall and a draft pick, they have the salary to match up with another for a star who wants out. And you know how it is, Mike. When a star wants out, somehow the value goes down. And, how would you have thought that you would have the pieces to get James Harden without giving up Kyrie? And you got him, and that's because Harden wanted to come to the Nets. And then, obviously fast forward, whatever's happened. But so you never know what's going to happen in the NBA offseason.
Yeah, Randall.
Even though the Harden trade didn't happen in the offseason, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's the same.
Yeah.
The trade was inevitable for the Harden stuff. It's a bad example, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anything can happen in the offseason.
No, I would imagine Julius Randle's not on the Knicks next year. I'd be pretty stunned about that. I don't know what kind of deal they can get from at this point. I think a lot of things will change. I don't think you're not trading Julius Randle and getting. I don't think you're getting a superstar back if he's a part of that piece.
But it's a package. It's a package.
I don't know. But right, I don't know why a team would want him. But then to your point, yeah, it's true. When you have nothing else to give up, and you want to just make sure that have some sort of relevant, stable NBA players.
Yeah.
So if Donovan Mitchell's like, I'm out of here, and Utah's like, well, at least we get Julius Randle back because he's a proven player.
He's an all-star.
He's not even close to Donovan Mitchell, but he's the guy that
sell it to your fan base. Like, oh, well, his all-star maybe in a new environment, the new environment thing. You know what I mean? This is our guy now. I'm sure Julius Randle goes from top of the world in New York City to like, I'm in Salt Lake City. Like, okay.
Hey, well,
how did we get here?
like some best mozzarella sticks I ever had in my life. Salt Lake City. There's apparently an Italian.
Don't get the pizza. Ask Michael Jordan. They'll get the pizza.
I've heard, there's an Italian restaurant in Utah that's supposed to be like the best.
Oh, yeah?
Legit. I've heard from multiple people. There's a crazy
better than Carbone in the city.
Crazy good Italian place in Utah that's like the best. And everybody listening going, I know everybody listening going to this Nets fan and Knicks fans are like, you're an asshole idiot. I'm telling you. I'll put it out there.
New York has the best Italian food. We got the Italian foods over here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. Everybody's got the best everything where they live. Nowhere else can be great.
No, nothing. There's a Bill Burr quote where he from one of his stand-ups. He's like, how come when I go somewhere, it's not the exact same as where it is when I go from home? It's like, you know, how he flips it, and Bill Burr is great. But it's
I get it. The more narrative building. We'll do it on food. And trust me, I've had a lot of
Mike delivers. Listen to Mike delivers.
About it. Yes, please check it out. All right, Nets play the Boston Celtics on Sunday. Will be an interesting game because Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant are paired back together, and I think for Net fans, a win there would mean a lot. And it'll be interesting just to see what they look like. But
can I ask you a question before?
Yeah.
Sorry if you want to keep going. I'm sorry.
No. I
didn't want you to end it before I wanted to ask you a question.
Well, I got to wrap us up soon, so
Yes, that's why I wanted to get the question in.
Stay in a relationship.
Why didn't Kevin Durant tweet after the Nets game when they lost the other night? I'm just curious.
Because it was fun to troll the Knicks and they did lost.
Oh, okay. But he put up 31 and they lost to the Heat without Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry and PJ Tucker. Why wasn't he tweeting? He should have tweeted something.
I think he didn't tweet because it was after a loss. So why do that? I think it's more fun to tweet after a win. He was on the bench. He was feeling it. He heard the Net fans yelling in New York. But
this game he played in this game, so he should be tweeting.
Alex, the fact that it's 3 weeks later and you're bringing this up tells me everything I need to know about your feelings about Kevin Durant and the jealousy of the Nets. Thank you for doing
not
that.
jealous. It was pathetic. That's all I'm saying. It was pathetic.
Whatever you
want to play, and he was
however you want to spin your narrative about it, that you brought it up 3 weeks later, that you were waiting for it, like, oh, I got one. I got a good one to end on Biseglia. Here we go.
That's
Why
right.
didn't Kevin Durant?
Right.
You got me. Well done.
Yeah, so you're ESPN right now. You're changing the narrative. You're acting like the Porzingis trade didn't happen, and the Knicks. I would have drafted Darius Garland.
I love how you get this on me when I don't even. I'm getting aside for the producers. We got to wrap. This has been Bad Weather Fans, episode number 106. Thank you guys for tuning in. Apple, of course, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. On YouTube, if you watch it, tweet us at Nick Central, at Mike Delivers Pod, and we'll see where the season goes from here. We are in the home stretch. Knicks continue to lose. Nets continue to lose. What will happen moving forward? Who the hell knows? But hopefully some excitement for both of our fan bases, except the Knicks. Alex, appreciate it. And I'll talk to you later, my man.
Thank you. We'll be jersey number trivia and poll question. We'll be back next week. Sorry again. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.